Good morning. Rocking my navy shirt. So I'm sitting here reading, guess what? Bulletproof Diet by David Asprey. And I am reading, I don't even know what chapter this is. I just kind of started skipping through it a little bit, because I'm usually pretty linear, but I wasn't getting there fast enough for myself, so I started allowing myself to flip through it. So I've got two bookmarks now, my flip through it bookmark and my linear reading bookmark. But so I was reading this part. I don't even know let's see where we are. The chapter is called Stop Counting Calories, Eat More Fat, and Trust Your Hunger. And let's see here. Well, can't quite get into, I don't know. I'll figure out what chapter number that is. So the section in this chapter is main sources of nutritional kryptonite. And then the subcategory is gut-destroying grains. And this is pretty amazing. So I may read out of this book, just as a heads up. So I'll have to cite the book. But mostly I'm going to be paraphrasing out of it, just because that's how my brain works. So this book is written as his journey through figuring out how his brain and stomach work together. And not just his brain and body and his gut all work together. How the food impacts everything from his blood pressure to his ability to think. And it's really pretty interesting. Plus there's losing fat. I guess he started off at about 300 pounds and he lost 50 pounds by going low carbohydrate, and then he stalemated, he just plateaued and couldn't do anything more. So he started digging deeper into what he could be eating, should be eating, and how it affects him. So yeah, and this is his journey with gut-destroying grains. For him, they were gut-destroying grains. So this is on, if you happen to have this book, I've got I don't even know which edition this is. Maybe. Yeah, it doesn't really say which edition it is. It's printed by Rodale Books, whatever. Okay, so this is page 60 and on to 61. So when he went low carb, obviously you cut out wheat, which means flour, pastries, breads, pastas, and surprisingly there's a lot of wheat in sauces and even salad dressings. They use wheat isolates or something. I don't even know what they use. But when he went low carb, he found that one, he lost 50 pounds, and then he says, this is where it says, in addition to losing the weight, I found that my personality changed dramatically. I'm not proud of this, but I'll own up to the fact that as an obese young man, I had overdeveloped muscles in my middle finger because of road rage. When I went low carb and ditched the gluten, my family noticed I was far less angry than usual, and my Labrador brain's desire to flip off other drivers went away. I felt like I had wakened up from a fog. So, and then he talks about how after the inflammation had cleared his system, that then he was allowing cheat days, but he's using his cheat days very much on a quasi-scientific level. So he's using his cheat days to introduce a potential trigger food and maintaining, I think that he was tracking his energy, mood, and food cravings, plus tracking his food that he was eating. And so he was doing a cheat day once a week, and on the cheat day he'd frequently eat gluten, different kinds of gluten, whether it was like a flour pastry or something snuck in, corn dog or something like that. I don't know. But he said that when he ate gluten, he felt fine the day after, but like 2 to 3 days later, and sometimes 2 and 3 days later, he'd get cranky and foggy. So it had like a delayed reaction, as he called it, as the inflammation traveled through his body and finally hit his brain. And so he learned to be aware of, one, gluten really does have an effect on him, but two, if you eat junk on Saturday, then probably Monday or Tuesday is going to be your slump day. So he learned to be able to be aware of that and to be able to plan if there was a birthday party or something, and he knew that Monday was going to be a drag. So, I think that's really kind of interesting. And he said that it's unusual, but some people can even have a reaction to food that they were exposed to up to, and maybe even further than, 10 days later. So I know with myself, if I go into like a calorie binge, it's about 14 days later that I find the weight goes on. Like my stomach gets bigger and my so yeah, for me, my body does a big 14-day cycle. But yeah, it's really kind of interesting that he talks about gluten and how the gut bacteria change it into opioid-like compounds called glutamorphins, and it triggers the receptors in your brain that give you that that morphine. I don't know. I've never done opiates as a recreational drug, and I don't even really like them as a medicinal drug. So I don't really know. I just remembered that morphine burned, and I was like, can you not put the burning ice cubes into my veins right now? They're like, oh, what do you want? I was like, I don't know. Can I take a pill? No, because your jaw's sewed shut. So that was my hospital experience. But I was like, I don't want that. And so then I got oral suspension. Codeine, I think it was, but But yeah, morphine was no fun. But it's really interesting. And then he talks about how the way that people can become addicted to the wheat and the gluten and even carbohydrates for some people is that it triggers that receptor in your brain, and then your brain wants to get back to that mellow smoothness, the Labrador part of your brain, mellow smoothness. So then it reaches for another piece of bread, or it might be the pizza that you eat, or it might be the what's another thing, the sugar, candy, ice cream, whatever that it is. Yeah. And yeah, he said that the struggle, he struggled with the problem. He'd give him up and only have one piece of like a sandwich on a cheat day, or like a bread roll with dinner or whatever, I guess. I don't know. He didn't really go into that. Just one piece is what he called it. And then that his Labrador brain would trick him into rationalizing that eat just one more. Let's you already didn't eat it yesterday, so let's have another one. Instead of a cheat day, then he would not get into it, but he said probably his Labrador brain was trying to get him to just maintain a cheat week or a cheat month. I don't know. I've been there. That's kind of how my brain works. But, yeah, it's really interesting. And especially with my reaction that I had yesterday, how intense that was and how quick it reacted to me. I had, I just felt like there was a lot of energy across my chest. Like, I could feel it in my armpits. Like, I would move my arms around, and, why was I moving? Because there was energy there. I just needed to get the energy out. And I think, I can identify that with a bit of the ADD, or the ADHD, the kids who can sit still, and then, the itch in their body needs to be scratched, so they just have to move. They get up and walk, or they start fiddling with their pen, or they start, I don't know what, twirling their hair, chewing on something, breaking things, whatever it is. There's an itch, a movement itch that they need to scratch. And it might really be a food itch that they need to scratch, but you're sitting in class and you're 5 through 25 and you don't have access to food, nor do you have the ability to, well, I guess by 25 you can buy your own food, but I don't know, it's just really interesting. And I remember doing that when I was a kid, going out for pizza and just having a lot more crazy energy. Not there was having energy and wanting to go and do things, but this was my silly energy, the energy that had me just giggling and talking really loud and just being that kid at the birthday party who got there and they were mellow and quiet, and by the end they're just the voice is going hoarse, they're talking so loud. And I was that kid. And then yeah, this is really interesting that it's explaining things from my childhood. Surprised that I knew that about my childhood, but we had a physical therapist who worked with kids that were born to drug addictions in my family circle of friends, and she pointed it out. She's really crazy. What did she eat? So, yeah, I don't know. I just find it really pretty interesting. Anyway, so that's my morning reading. Yay! So I guess I have to figure out how to... Maybe I'll put a link to the book, the Amazon version of the book, down below. That'll be a good way to do this. I don't know. I've never had to cite things before. I've never had things that came up that were outside of my own brain. And YouTube creators is pretty easy to write about. Yeah. So if anybody out there is also doing the Bulletproof, yeah, shoot me a little line down below, especially if you're doing it on your YouTube channel, or if you're doing any kind of reduced, I don't know, a food reduction, not reduction, like an allergen reduction type diet. If you've ever done one before, if your kid is on one, let me know, because I want to know, what all I'm going to be expecting. I did one when I was a kid, but I had grown-ups that were directing what foods I ate. And now that I am the grown-up, I have a food craving, and I have to fight against my food craving and make sure that I stay on program, which is so hard. 14 days is how long it takes my body to stop craving everything, which 14 days doesn't sound like a long time, but try going 14 days of not washing your face, not brushing your teeth. And they're like gross, but you can't even scratch this stuff off. You gotta leave it there for 14 days. I don't know. 14 days without coffee? What's everybody's little Jones down there? Their little, I want to say kryptonite, but now kryptonite's getting a no-go thing. What is your thing that your guilty pleasure, your not necessarily guilty pleasure, but the thing that you need to do to make sure that your day goes on schedule or whatever? Yeah, let me know that too. So if there's something that you do or eat that is kind of like super important to you, or if there's an elimination style diet that you've ever done or kids have done. I don't know. It's really interesting. I'm finding this very fascinating, and I hope that other people are too. Yeah. Happy Friday, everybody! Hello from Oregon. Alright, this is a very long video, and you guys only watched like the first 4 minutes. Not everybody, but like in general. Like 4 or 5 minutes tends to get watched, so. Alright. Have a great day. Have a great weekend.